Hello everyone. Our presentation is on a little bit of the hope side of the future. So we are presenting a lo-fi prototype of a board game about mycelium networks. And okay, I need to pass. And I am Ilana. This is Debbie and Adrián. And we come all from different places in the world and also from different design backgrounds. But we are all studying interaction design currently, the master's program at Malmö University, which is not so far from here. And yeah, okay, so this is a little bit of our context. In the third semester of the program, we had two important courses that contributed a lot to this prototype, which were designed for eco-social futures, where we dealt with all these ideas of grief and hope in transitions, and this idea of what we can call the fourth wave of HCI, in which we are dealing with these entanglements and this whole more than human theories that are coming. And right after that, we had a course with Simon Lindenthal about play and ludic interaction, in which we could engage with this topic still, but from a lighter perspective, and like trying to engage with these complicated themes through play and through the design of playful interactions. And this is a little bit about what we are doing today. We're going to present a little bit of the topics and the design process of how we designed this game. And in the end, we hope we have a time for a little bit of a demo. So yeah, and then and just for a short overview, this is what the prototype looks like. It's on this table here. We're going to invite 4 volunteers to play with us, and the goal is basically to build a network that is a mycelium network that is the most resilient, the best connected, and manages its resources. And our challenge was to design a multiplayer board game like a traditional one, as most of you probably have one experience like that, but from a non-human perspective, in that case, mycelium networks.
Thank you. Hello, so we will start guiding you a little bit through the process that we follow in this project. Wait. All right, no.
Go back. Can you go back? No.
Yeah, the small button.
The small button.
No, here.
Yeah.
The small.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay,
Sorry about that. Okay, so we started playing just a few games that we like. We were interested in the strategy that these games follow, and also in the way players expands the territory they control. We like Catan and Seven Wonders because of the way they manage different types of resources and how players have to decide which resources to focus more on. And we also really like Carcassonne because of the way the maps builds up as the game develops, and every time you play, the map becomes completely different. So this one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you consider.
All right. So, but the problem, well, not the problem, but we soon realized that these games focus a lot on conquering, controlling, and it's very much focused on winning. And we wanted to bring a different perspective with our game, and also for players to consider how other systems in nature work, and also how other organisms live in nature. So we play the wingspan and harmonies, which focus on building an ecosystem and put a lot of emphasis on how different species of animals live together and also contribute to nature. And we really like also photosynthesis because it has a sun that every round turns around the table, and that drastically influences the game as it affects the shadow that the trees are casting, and that affects also how many resources the trees collect. And lately, we really like the aesthetics of Kodama, which is about building a tree and prioritizing the different features that live on the tree, like for instance, mushrooms, insects, or different types of flowers. So we had a presentation before that mentioned mycelium, but maybe still some of you don't really know what mycelium is. It can be compared with the roots of mushrooms. But the difference is that they can spread larger distances and they have so many more ramifications called hyphae. And they work as a decentralized network, meaning that there is no a central brain. Instead, it's divided into multiple nodes. And that makes the whole network very resilient, because if one area of the mycelium dies, then the network can continue growing in different directions, and it doesn't really affect the living organism. Also, another interesting thing about mycelium is that it can establish symbiotic relationship with other species, like for instance trees. Since it can extend through larger distances, it can be connected to multiple trees at the same time, and the mycelium is extracting minerals from the soil and exchanging it for sugar from that trees generate through photosynthesis. Yeah, so we are not the only ones that have made a game about mycelium. There are other ones. The first one on the right, it also is about generating mushroom, expanding spores, and focus on different species of mushrooms, but it's very much focused still on competition and not very much focus on cooperation. It's more about controlling the ecosystem and getting the most amount of resources. Mycelia in the middle, instead, it does a really good job in representing different species of mushrooms as magical entities that live in the forest. And it's not very much a strategy game, but it does a really good job in emphasizing the important role that mushrooms have for the forest and in nature in general. And the last one, mycelium, we wanted to bring this one up because you embodied a mycelium and you have to grow a community of mushrooms. And yeah, we think also digital games offer a lot of possibilities when it comes to embodying a different species. So yeah, to sum up and to give you a short introduction, the goal for us is to encourage players to think and make strategic decisions from the perspective of another living organism, in this case a mycelium. Encourage reflection and learning the strategy and how to play through playing, not by us explicitly telling you, okay, you have to cooperate or you have to connect to other mycelium. We want the players to realize that it's important as they play. And yeah, and also for the design approach that we have followed, we took some of the strategy rules from the games that we mentioned before. And also we did some research on how mycelium really behaves in nature.
So we began basically, prototyping this, and so we were thinking of yeah. And then when we started off, we did take inspiration from, like, for example, Carcassonne, on how we can represent these mycelium and like basically these networks. And we realized that I think most of the board games that we have, it's pretty much like just confined to like specific shapes, and we wanted to sort of break out of those shapes. And so we started exploring around materials like organic strings, and then we started to see how this could feel on a board game. And then we also had like these stationary pins that we would put on a board game, and we can tie these strings around and see if we can create networks around it. And then we did sort of come up with we did fixate on this specific material choice here, which is like elastic bands. Basically, it's quite it's a stationary product and you can find it anywhere, and that's what we thought was best for this specific prototype here. And and it was also easy for us to use that because you didn't have to make an extra effort to make it longer or shorter, and they already came in specific lengths, and it was easy to prototype with that. We were also looking into how do we how do we represent like nodes and mushrooms and so yes, I think that we literally went for like the most readily available material that we have, which is like, you know, you have Play-Doh and then you have these basically elastic bands. But we were also thinking of like having, you know, trying to sort of explore materials that would be something that we could have in a second version of this prototype, more of a higher definition that we have right now currently. So we were looking into making these specific tiles that would basically be on the board, and which would be movable basically. And we looked into how we can maybe laser cut them or make basically 3D model them. And coming to something like what we hope to do in a future exploration for this, if we do get the chance to do that, it would be basically looking into what organic materials that we can find, which is biodegradable as well. And of course, it matches the aesthetics of our game. So we looked into like tiles, and we were thinking about how this could be created in like using clay and also biodegradable rubber bands, basically. So we also see the potential of this being a board game, not just for the commercial use but also for an education purposes, to teach people about mycelium and how they basically create these networks.
Yes. So how do we play this game? How do we start? So first, I will introduce the physical elements that the game has. It has a board made out of different tiles, and there are three types of main tiles, which is representing the resources. We have water tiles, organic matters, and minerals, and those are the essential nutrients that the mycelium needs. And as I mentioned before, mycelium also can establish symbiotic relationships with either trees or with ants. And then we have cards also. We have nature cards that are played at the beginning of each round, and those could be positive or negative. For instance, mycelium needs water, so if rain comes, then you get to grow and to extend more. And we also have action cards, and those you have to pay with the resources you have collected, pretty much like in Catan. But also some of them you need to meet one of the conditions. Like for instance, the one we have on the screen needs you to be connected to a tree for it to play. So at the beginning, you have one growing cost card where it's very much focused on expanding your network, and you can use it every time in your turn. But you also can play action cards. You can also replace one of the cards if you don't want it, and you get a bunch of elastics of your own color. And at the beginning, you place one node on a water tile because that's the main resource that mycelium needs, and then you can expand your three elastics in one of these positions. And a very important distinction here to make is that an hyphae is only one elastic, and what we mean by a branch is between two nodes, so a row of elastics. So at the beginning, as I say, we play one nature can, which could be positive or negative, and then the player's turn, you just decide to first expand your network through your growing cost card, or you can use your action cards to play different actions and replace one, or you can, if you are connected to another network, you can also exchange nutrients with another player. And how to count resources, like in this case, we have two mycelial networks that meet on point 4. So you start counting from that node, and you essentially count the elastic is on one tile. So if it is a water tile, you get one water token, and the same with the organic matter and the minerals. And it doesn't matter, like the sharing nodes, both Mycelium network can count resources from that sharing node as well. And then partnerships that you can establish and the meeting conditions that you need to play some of the action cards. One is with ants, which is related to infection and destruction. So if I'm connected to an ant and also connected to another player, then I can infect one of their branches, which means that that branch is going to get paralyzed, so that player cannot use it. But if that player is, for instance, connected to a trees, trees are going to be more related to protection and healing. So then they can heal that branch. And also you started your first network from one water node, but also you can, as you first grow a node and then you pay for growing a mushroom, you can release your spores, and then that means you can start another network from another part of the board. And the winning conditions at the end, eventually it's about counting points. So you get points based on the number of nodes that your network has. Also, the player that first creates 5 nodes wins the game. But you also can win by getting decay mushrooms tokens. That happens once you have created a mushroom and releases the spores. And once that happens, the mushroom dies and then you get the decay token. But also a player gets points for his longest branch and also for the number of branches the network has in total. Also, at the end of the game, if you haven't used some tokens, you get 1 point for every 3 tokens unused.
Can someone pass for me? So in the end, like we were not going for a fully cooperative game, but we kind of allowed these possibilities to happen more naturally. Like you can either cooperate, compete, or try to do a completely independent game and see how it plays out. And it shaped the mechanics that we created around it. So basically you can only compete or cooperate if you are connected. So this idea of symbiotic relations, they are kind of one way of playing the game. And if you want to play until the end with 4 players, it's probably going to happen, and sometimes because of the limitations of the board. But then the benefits are collecting more resources and also unlocking some cards, action cards, but also there are risks of doing that. So you can be attacked, and you can also get blocked in not be able to collect as many resources as you could before. But we also, during the playtest, this was an interesting dynamics because we could see players thinking about this kind of whole idea. So the games in the end feels, of course, more competitive because even when you're cooperating, you are going for a winning condition. So you're playing individually ultimately. But we also had the feedback that we could try to have like a fully cooperative mode, and we could have a fully cooperative mode if we made the resources more scarce or the nature cards more challenging. But we also saw some players being feeling bad for being mean or when the others cannot be. So this is something also interesting in not making the game fully cooperative, because these tensions might arise and showcase the ethical entanglements of this. And the game gets more complicated the more entangled it gets and the more it goes. So we also thought that it helped, of course, refine a lot of the rules and mechanics, but we don't think of that as a bad thing, because we think it's kind of not, it was not our goal to reduce all the complexity and the entanglements, and also like show it in how it is in nature, and these ethics and things are also at play. Like ultimately my own goal as a species or as a mycelial network is to survive. So we had some challenges, of course, during the design process, and some things that we would like to explore further is this idea of a fully cooperative mode and how would that be, and also asymmetric gameplay, because right now we don't have any asymmetric gameplay, but ideally we would have different species, an option at least, like not one mode of playing and one that each player have different abilities and specific growing costs. and also the idea of collaborating more with mycologists and making the cards more accurate to what happens in nature, and even exploring this idea of seasons, because we played in some other games this idea of season, but explored that even deeper into how it can play, how it is in real life and how it can play in the mechanics of the game. So ultimately, we think that, like, from a designer perspective, it's a great challenge to kind of try to design a game, any type of game, but game mechanics and aesthetics from this more than human perspective. So if you haven't done that yet, I think I strongly suggest that you try it out, at least with a small game. But it might help even for us as designers to connect better and make kin through play, but also for people who are engaging and playing this game. And that's why we invite you. We're going to invite 4 volunteers to try to start a quick gameplay in 10 minutes. And if someone is willing to join, we have a table right here for this kind of very lo-fi prototype. Do you have any interest? If you want to join, you can join, please. Should I keep this?